Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Alana and today you'll be joining me for my May wrap-up in which I read 9 books. I can't even do hands this time. 9. I read 9 and most of those were audiobooks, I'm not going to lie. If you recall, in April I read so very much. I completed 2 different readathons. I was off work for about 20 days there, so I had the time to just go hard and read everything. But for May, I think that impacted me because my reading was just off all month. I struggled, let me tell you. So I thought for this month, I'm going to shake things up a little bit because we could all use a little bit of positivity and start with my highest ranked books and work my way down to the lowest. And if you don't want to stick around for the lowest ones, then I completely understand. So the first book I have to talk about, which got 5 stars from me and was my favorite book of the month, is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. Now, I listened to this one via the audiobook and I'm really glad I did because it just brought something more to the story. The narrator did a great job of all the different accents, of really characterizing Monty, the main character, and overall I just love the production of it. So in this one we follow a young man called Monty as he is about to set off on his great European tour before he has to settle down, return home and learn the family business. I will say also that this one is slightly historical set. I think it's in the 1800s or the 1900s, I can't quite remember, but I absolutely love this choice of setting and I think it just added so much more character and flavour to the story. We also have a queer main character as well as epilepsy representation, and this just made the story that much better again. I will say that Monty, the main character, really grated on my nerves there to start off with. He comes across as entitled, which he sort of is, but then you start to learn more about his childhood and why he maybe makes some of the decisions that he does, and watching his romance bloom with one of the other characters, it was beautiful. So like I said, this one got 5 stars from me. I really loved the voice of the character and the setting and all the adventurous things that happen along the way. We had pirates, we had highwaymen, we had a sort of magical element of the Philosopher's Stone in there somewhere too, and it was just a great read. Hopefully I will also be buying the physical copy of this book at some stage to further support the author. Because I did read this one through the audiobook, I need to have it on my shelves. It has to be another edition because it was beautiful. Following on from that, my second favourite read of the month was actually the sequel, which is A Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. In this one, we follow Monty's younger sister, Felicity, as she tries to pursue her dream of becoming a medical professional and is constantly knocked down because she is a woman and that is not what women do in these times. Again, there was so much adventure in this one, and I also liked how the main character came across as ace or asexual. It wasn't explicitly said, but that is what I read into the character, and I liked that there didn't have to be that big romance to further the plot. Felicity herself furthered the plot with her actions and with her passion for wanting to pursue a career in the medical field, and she became one of my favourite characters. Again, like with the first book, I did find her character voice to be a little annoying to start off with, but once I got into her head and we were away on the journey, I fell in love with her. As a character, Felicity is very resourceful and just awkward in the most purest way with a few different things, especially with social interactions. She's not good at being a lady of her time, and I enjoyed hearing her story so very much because, again, I listened to this one on audiobook, so again, I will be purchasing the physical copy at some point. This one got 4.5 stars from me, and I am also very excited to pick up the third book in the Montague siblings trilogy, which I think follows their younger brother Adrian, but I could be wrong. But I'm excited either way. Next up, I have Amulet: The Last Council, which is the 4th book in the Amulet graphic novel series. This one is by Kazu Kibuyoshi, and I love the art style. It's beautiful, it's very high quality, and this one went darker like I was hoping it to, and I was not disappointed. So this one ended up getting 4 stars from me, and we get more of the Stonekeepers and of their sort of history in this one, and I'm super glad for that. If you don't know, Amulet is a graphic novel series which follows this girl here called Emily. Oh, okay, Evie's gonna join us while I try and describe the first one. So Amulet is a series evolving around Emily, the girl in the middle of this cover, as she finds out that she is actually a descendant of the Stonekeepers, and it's her journey of discovering what that means, how she fits into it, and the adventures that ensue from there. If you want something that's not too heavy and is easy to consume while also being super action-packed and adventure-filled, definitely try this graphic novel series. You need to hop down now so that I can continue on, okay? And the next book I have to talk about is Burn by Patrick Ness. This is one of my most anticipated releases for the year, and I'm glad that I consumed it. I have a full reading vlog for it up above. If you love Patrick Ness, you know he goes super weird and always includes some element of fantastic fantasy in his book somewhere, and this is no different. In this one, we follow Sarah Dewhurst, and we see that her and her father have had to make the tough decision to hire a dragon to work on their farm, which is failing. But when the dragon arrives, she finds out that there was more to him than meets the eye, and it's full of dragons and prophecy and diversity. Sarah herself is a person of color. We also have a few queer characters in here too, and I really loved the discussions that this one opened up. This one is also very fastly paced and has a lot of plot going on, and it's a ride, let me just say that. There were definitely some twists and turns in this which I didn't see the book heading in, and ultimately I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars. I still really liked it. It's not one of my favorite Patrick Ness books, but it's also very well written and just includes some really important conversations. I love it for doing that. Then we have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I have a spoiler-free reading vlog for this as well as a book babble in the works, so expect those soon. But in this one, we get President Snow when he is 18 before he becomes the president, so this is a prequel story to the Hunger Games, and I really enjoyed most of this, I will say that. It got 3.5 stars from me. I enjoyed returning to the world, but at the same time, I don't know if we needed 500 pages of this, and I don't know if I completely reconciled with the fact that it was snow. I did like, however, how we got to see the Hunger Games building up to what we know them to be. In this one, we follow the 10th annual Hunger Games, and they are more archaic, and tributes are just chucked into this abandoned stadium and told to kill each other. There's no fanfare, and the public don't like to watch it. And this book is exploring ways in which to engage people with this gruesome concept more, as well as seeing how Snow started out and all of that. I like how he wasn't completely redeemable. That's not a spoiler because you know how he ends up. We got a bit of his backstory. I felt conflicted thinking, should we be feeling sorry for him or not? But by the end of the book, I realized that no, he's still an asshole. He always was. He's very ambitious. That's just Snow. So like I said, I did predominantly enjoy this. It got 3.5 stars from me. Not a favorite, but also I liked seeing more of this world. Again, didn't need to be 500 pages long. And then for something fun, I decided to pick up the first book in the Heroes of Olympus series. So I read the first series in this, which is the Percy Jackson series, which everyone raves about, a few years ago now, and I enjoyed it, but I also admit that if I was younger and reading this, I would have loved it a lot more. But it did take me some time to get around to the next lot. Also, this universe is expanding rapidly, and it's just always intimidated me a little bit to try and get back into it. So when I saw this audiobook pop up on BorrowBox, my audiobook app that I use, I thought, why not? Let's listen to it, and it was very entertaining and very enjoyable. In this one, we follow 3 new main characters as they are thrust into Camp Half-Blood and go on their own quests. We get some old characters returning, but predominantly we are following the 3 new main characters, Jason, Piper, and Leo. The Roman side of the gods are also introduced in this one, and I found that very interesting as a concept and how that influenced the story as a whole as well. So like I said, the audiobook was very entertaining. I will say though that I think these books are very formulaic in the fact that they follow heroes who go on their quests and then come back and that's my experience with the book so far. So knowing that, I can go into these books and expect that, and I know that I'm going to have some fun. They're going to be fun adventure stories. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars, and I would be keen to continue on with the series through audiobook, but we'll see how it goes. And then the third to last book I have to talk about is Please See Us by Caitlin Mullen. This is a psychological thriller set in Atlantic City, and we follow a few different main characters, one being Clara, who is a psychic who is trying to help one of the other main characters called Lily to discover why girls are going missing and to help before it is too late. Now, I will start off by saying that this is in a genre that I don't usually read, and I found it very, very heavy to consume. The overall feeling of this book was one of desperation, and also just to be a girl in Atlantic City does not sound fun. It just is, to put it blankly, depressing. This book was quite hard to read for me. It was very dark. Not to say that that is a criticism on the book whatsoever, because that is the genre that it is in, but it was heavy. So I ended up rating this one a 3 stars. I really enjoyed the writing style and the different perspectives that we get, but it's not something that I typically gravitate towards. And overall, I think that impacted my reading experience of this one a little bit. And then the second to last book is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. Again, this one was one of my audiobooks, and look, if you've watched my wrap-ups before, you'll know that I'm not a fan and I don't like this series, and for some reason I thought, hey, why not listen to the third book and just torture myself some more? I don't get the hype with this series, but I had started it, so I wanted to see it through to the end, and there are more poisonous relationships in this. There's just not much happening until about halfway again. I don't know. It's not a series for me, but I will say that out of the 3 books, this one was probably the most enjoyable for me, because we got a point about 3/4 of the way through the book there where the main character stopped being whiny, stopped complaining, and actually had to grow up and mature and take control of the situation. So I enjoyed the last quarter of this book, but the rest of it didn't really care. I also know that that is a bit of an unpopular opinion for this series, and hey, we're all gonna have different opinions, and that is just mine. So I originally had this one written down as a 3 star. I would probably hold to that because that last quarter was okay, but I could also drop it to 2.5. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna leave it there and say thanks, but no thanks. And then the last book, and my least favorite book of the month, was The Five by Hallie Rudenhold. This is a non-fiction book following the lives of the 5 women that Jack the Ripper killed, and from the get-go this book makes it very clear that the author does not want to spotlight and showcase Jack the Ripper in any form. This is very clearly about the 5 women and their lives and how their circumstances led them to be in the positions that they were. Overall, the premise of this sounded really interesting to me, as I wanted to find out more about them. I've not read a whole lot on Jack the Ripper, and this just sounded interesting and right up my alley, but it ended up being, and I feel bad for saying, a bit boring because it does weigh you down with all the different dates, and overall, again, the tone of this book was depressing, and I don't know if I was in the right headspace to consume that. The author also speculates on whether people were right to assume certain things about the 5 women, which I thought was a very good discussion to be had in this book, but I got the overall sense that it was not fun to be of the lower class in Victorian London, and I'm glad that I did not have to live in that time. So I ended up giving this one 2 stars, which I was a bit sad about, but even having the audiobook, it was a struggle to get through. So there you have it. Those are the 9 books that I read in the month of May. If you stuck around, thank you so much for watching, and remember that now is the time to be a better ally to people of colour and to be listening and learning. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.